Welcome to this ToolHound Learning Center video on changing the inventory status of a serialized item. Change item status is a feature that applies to serialized items only. It's most commonly used to set a tool or piece of equipment to an equivalent inventory status, and it doesn't affect the quantity on hand. It's not a substitute for reinstating items that were previously retired as lost, written off, or sold. Let's see how useful this feature can be. First, let's get a little background on inventory statuses. Here is a list of standard inventory statuses. This page is generally for the use of your ToolHound administrators and isn't frequently used, so don't be surprised if you haven't seen it before. Each inventory status is defined by a combination of flags that determine how the item will behave. There are flags for can issue, in transit, can transfer, is retired, available for new, and is issued. We won't discuss the flags in depth in this video, but you can find full details in the help documentation. Inventory statuses are used in conjunction with transaction types, transfers, receiving inventory, etc. Custom inventory statuses with equivalent definitions can be created, but please contact support for best practice recommendations before proceeding to avoid any unexpected behaviors in the future. There are limitations on what can be changed. For example, anything that's in transit between one stocking point and another, anything that's issued out in the field, and any tool that's currently retired where you want to change it to something other than a retired status. So what do you do if you have a retired item and you want to put it back in stock? Let's recap how to reinstate inventory. Here we have a scissor lift that was accidentally returned as lost. Since it's both on hand and functional, we need to make it available to issue. First, we look up the item under retired items. We see the reason this lift was retired in the notes field. There was a lost in transit record created against a transfer. To put the item back in stock, check Reinstate in the lower left-hand corner, select the correct inventory status, and enter a reason for reinstating this item, and click Save. When we refresh the serialized item page showing the scissor lift, the inventory status shows it's back in stock and available to be issued. Now on to change item status. We'll walk through 3 different situations where change item status can be used to more accurately maintain our inventory. A scooter that was used for on-site transport was never brought back, and eventually it was returned as lost to get it off the books. A few weeks later it was found, but it was left in a state that was unusable, so we're sending it out to scrap. We want the history of this item to be accurate. Previously, you would either leave it as is or reinstate the item, then issue and return it with the appropriate status, or manually retire it. Now you can change the retired status to an equivalent. Here we see all the inventory statuses with the is retired flag. In addition to lost, sold, and write-off, we've created 3 copies with different labels that behave the exact same way: obsolete, return to vendor, and scrapped. To change the item status, we'll open the Change Item Status page, click plus to add a new record, enter the item ID of the scooter, and it displays the original inventory status. In the new inventory status, we'll select Scrapped. Note that only equivalent statuses are displayed. Next, enter a reason to explain the change in status, and click Save. When we return to the serialized items page and refresh the record for the Vespa, we see that the status is now changed to scrap. The quantity on hand is still 0. When we go to the Transaction History tab, we see that there is a new transaction history record with change status showing the change from lost to scrapped. In this case, we have a grinder that was returned in a rush as okay, so it's in stock. But on closer inspection, while it is still usable, it could use some repair. Let's change it to an equivalent on-hand status. The equivalent status we'll use is needs repair. On the Change Item Status page, we'll click plus, enter the item ID for the grinder. The current inventory status of in stock is displayed, and in the new inventory status list, we will select needs repair. We enter the reason for the change and click Save. When we return to the serialized item page and refresh the grinder, we can see that the status is changed. Of course, the quantity on hand is unchanged, and the transaction history tab has the new record for the change status event, and it shows that it went from in stock to needs repair. Let's call this case pressing pause. You have a piece of equipment that temporarily isn't available, but you also aren't going to track by issuing to an outside repair vendor. You need to ensure this item isn't accidentally issued. In this example, there's been a recall on this Dodge truck. Let's take a look at the inventory statuses. Here we have an out-of-service inventory status that has no flags at all. This puts the item in limbo. The truck is not a candidate for anything. It's in inventory, but it's stuck. On the Change Item Status page, we click plus, enter the item ID for the truck. The current inventory status is displayed, and we'll select out of service in the new inventory status. Next, the details of the recall are entered in the reason, and we click Save. When we return to the serialized items page and click refresh, we see that the truck is now out of service and the quantity on hand is still 1. The item is now in limbo, not available for any type of transactions. The transaction history shows the change status event moving from in stock to out of service. When the recall work is completed, we need to change the item status back to in stock so that the truck is available. On the Change Item Status page, click plus, enter the item ID for the truck, and select the new inventory status of in stock. Enter in the reason for this status change, and click Save. Returning to the serialized item page and clicking refresh, we see that the truck is now in stock and available again, and the transaction history shows the change status event from out of service to in stock. Let's review what we've covered. Contact support to assist with creating any new inventory statuses. This will avoid any potential problems down the road with unexpected behavior. The most common use for change inventory status is between two equivalent statuses. Anything that is currently issued or in transit cannot have the status changed. Change inventory status is not used to reinstate a retired item. In this case, use retired items and reinstate. Change inventory status does not affect the quantity on hand, ever. Thanks for watching this ToolHound Learning Center video. For any questions, contact our support team. And remember, subscribe and hit the notification bell.